Welcome to another episode of Know Before You Go. My name is Father Jude McPeak, and I'm the promoter of Vocations. This Sunday, we have the fifth Sunday of Easter, and our gospel is the beginning of the Last Supper discourses from John's Gospel. Now, in the chapter previous to this, in John's Gospel, we have Jesus washing the feet of his disciples, as well as Jesus predicting his passion and death. And of course, the disciples are greatly disturbed by this. They're greatly troubled by this because Jesus even says, "One of you will betray me." And so in the beginning of the Last Supper discourses in our gospel this Sunday, we begin with Jesus saying, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. You have faith in God, have faith also in me." In essence, Jesus is asking his disciples to trust in him. Trust in him in this difficult time. Trust in him in the wake of his death. And our responsorial psalm this Sunday echoes this call to trust. It says, "Lord, let your mercy be on us as we place our trust in you." Now, trust is an important thing in every relationship, and it's very important in our relationship with God. But what do we do when we don't fully trust God, or we feel like we don't trust God in our lives? Well, I think sometimes we think of this as a great mystery or a great puzzle to unwrap. Or if we work really hard, we can force ourselves to trust God. But I think in reality, the solution is a lot more simple than that. First, let us think, how do we learn to trust as human beings? Well, we learn to trust as babies. When a baby is born, it can't take care of itself, it can't feed itself, it can't decide for itself. All a baby can do when it's hungry or wet its diaper or it's bored is to cry out, and someone will hear and come and care for the baby. And over time, the baby learns more and more when it cries, it will get what it wants. And through time, and as the baby grows and matures, it has this innate trust for its parents, for its mother and father. It grows in its trust of other people. Well, it's much the same way in our spiritual lives. When we are beginning our faith, we're much like a baby that's newborn, and we don't know how to spiritually care for ourselves. And so we cry out. We cry out to God, not necessarily in tears, although those work, but we cry out to God through our prayers. Maybe we begin with small things. We cry out to God through our prayers to help us get through the day, to make us not late for a meeting, to find a parking spot, or not to burn the casserole we're making for dinner. And the more and more we cry out to God with our prayers, the more and more we begin to trust, so that we might begin to trust God with bigger things, trusting God with our relationships, trusting God in our own needs, our own struggles, trusting in our work, trusting in God to forgive our sins, trusting in God to guide us through the day. And the more we cry out, the more we turn to God in prayer, the more we grow that relationship of trust. Now, of course, sometimes when we cry out to God, God tells us no, or not yet, or continue to grow. And it's just as a baby, we don't give a baby everything a baby wants, because sometimes what the baby wants isn't good for it. But when we cry out to God, even when God says no, he still gives us the gift of his presence, the gift of his grace, the gift of his love. The more we cry out to him, the more we allow that gift to grow within us. And when we trust in God, we are more easily able to follow through, to follow in our trust of him. And finally, at the end of the gospel, Jesus says that whoever believes in me will do the works that I do, and even greater ones than these. In the end, God trusts us. God entrusts us with the gift of our lives, with the gift of our faith. Just as he entrusted Mary and Joseph with the gift of the baby Jesus, God is entrusting with us with his mission, with caring for his little ones, with caring for those around us. So when we feel ourselves lacking in trust of God, when we feel ourselves wanting to trust God more, think of the fact that God trusts you. God trusts you and entrusts you every day. He trusts you to continue his mission. He entrusts you to continue your life of faith. And that gift of trust that is given to us allows us to do great things, allows us to do things even greater than Jesus. And the more we trust in God, the more we allow ourselves to grow in God's love. God trusts us to follow after him. God trusts us to continue his mission. And in the end, God trusts us to turn to him to find our way home to him.